Hello, darlings, and welcome to another Grimm fairy tale bedtime story. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at the 7 Ravens. So, cozy up, get comfy, and I hope you all enjoy. There once was a man who had 7 sons, and he still had no daughter, however much he wished for one. At length his wife again gave him hope of a child, and when it came into the world it was a girl. The joy was great, but the child was unfortunately sickly and small, and had to be privately baptized on account of its weakness. The father sent one of the boys in great haste to the spring to fetch water for the baptism. The other 6 went with him, and as each one of them wanted to be first to fill it, the jug fell into the well. There they stood and did not know what to do, and none of them dared to go home. As they still did not return, the father grew impatient and said, "They have certainly forgotten it for some game, the wicked boys." He became afraid that the girl would die without being baptized, and in his anger cried, "I wish the boys were all turned into ravens." Hardly was the word spoken before he heard a whirring of wings over his head and in the air. He looked up and saw 7 coal-black ravens flying away. The parents could not recall the curse, and however sad they were at the loss of their 7 sons, they still, to some extent, comforted themselves with their dear little daughter, who soon grew strong, and every day became more beautiful. For a long time she did not know that she had had brothers, for her parents were careful not to mention them before her, but one day she accidentally heard some people saying of herself that the girl was certainly beautiful, but in reality she was to blame for the misfortune which had befallen her 7 brothers. Then she was much troubled, and went to her father and mother to ask if it was true that she had had brothers and what had become of them. The parents dared now keep the secret no longer, but said that what had befallen her brothers was the will of heaven, and that her birth had only been the innocent cause. But the maiden took it to heart daily, and thought she must deliver her brothers. She had no rest or peace until she set out secretly and went forth into the wide world to trace out her brothers and set them free, let it cost what it may. She took nothing with her but a little ring belonging to her parents as a keepsake, a loaf of bread against hunger, a little pitcher of water against thirst, and a little chair as a provision against weariness. And now she went continually onwards, far, far to the very end of the world. Then she came to the sun, but it was too hot and terrible, and devoured little children. Hastily she ran away and ran to the moon, but that was far too cold and also awful and malicious, and when it saw the child it said, "I smell the flesh of men." On this she ran swiftly away and came to the stars, which were kind and good to her, and each of them sat on its own particular little chair. But the morning star arose and gave her the drumstick of a chicken and said, "If thou hast not that drumstick, thou cannot open the glass mountain, and in the glass mountain are thy brothers." The maiden took the drumstick, wrapped it carefully in a cloth, and went onwards again until she came to the glass mountain. The door was shut, and she thought she would take out the drumstick, but when she undid the cloth it was empty, and she had lost the good star's present. What was she to do now? She wished to rescue her brothers, and she had no key to the glass mountain. The good sister took a knife and cut off one of her little fingers and put it in the door, and succeeded in opening it. When she had gone inside, a little dwarf came to meet her, who said, "My child, what are you looking for?" "I am looking for my brothers, the 7 ravens," she replied. The dwarf said, "Oh, the Lord Ravens are not home, but if you wait here until they come, step in." Thereupon the little dwarf carried the raven's dinner in on 7 little plates, and in 7 little glasses, and the little sister ate a morsel from each plate, and a little from each glass she took a sip, but in the last little glass she dropped the ring which she had brought away with her. Suddenly she heard a whirring of wings and a rushing through the air, and then the little dwarf said, "Now the Lord Ravens are home." Then they came and wanted to eat and drink, and looked for their little plates and glasses. Then one said to the other, "Who has eaten something from my plate and drunk out of my little glass? It was a human mouth." And when the 7th came to the bottom of the glass, the ring rolled against its mouth. He looked at it and saw that it was a ring that had belonged to his mother and father, and said, "God grant that our sister may be here, and we shall be free." When the maiden, who was standing behind the door watching, heard that wish, she came forth, and on this all the ravens were restored to their human forms again, and they embraced and kissed each other and went home joyfully, where they lived happily ever after. It's just a short, cute little story, I think. I'm always a fan of anything to do with ravens, so naturally this one is a favorite of mine, but anyway, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you have a good night.